Dear learners, I am Christina Georgy, your academic counselor for the course code BEGAE-182, which is titled English Communication Skills. As per the requests of a few of our learners, I will be recording this session. So in our previous session, we discussed a detailed overview of Block 1, where we discussed the most important questions and sections to study without leaving. That too, a very unit-wise analysis was done. Now, let's focus our attention towards Block 2. Remember, Block 2 is titled Listening and Speaking in Informal and Formal Contexts. From your examination point of view, if you have referred to the previous question papers, you can understand that you wouldn't be receiving many questions with respect to this particular block. See, we have discussed the very previous question paper in the previous session of ours. There too, we saw that there were some questions asked from block 2, but none of them were actually theory questions. The questions asked from block 2 were solely practical questions. So what do I mean by theory and practical questions? Those who have attended the session would already know. For others, I'll explain. Before that, let me give you a brief overview of this block. That is, within this particular block, we have units. In the sense, within block 2, we have 4 units. As you can see in your study material, I am referring to our official IGNOU study material. Unit 1 deals with informal interpersonal functions. So this chapter is very interesting, but if you are in a very hurry-burry situation due to your last minute preparation, you can maybe skip this unit because we wouldn't be provided with many questions from this unit. In the sense, what I meant is some units are more important than the others. So looking at from that perspective, that too, from an examination point of view, we can analyze with reference to the previous question papers that from unit 1 there wouldn't be many questions. That is, the probability of there being a question for your TEE is minimal. Similar is the case with unit 2, making enquiries and asking questions. Nevertheless, I'll just take you through these 2 units and help you with the basic things to remember. Suppose you're referring to unit 1 and there you see section 1.2 greetings. Remember, I'm referring to unit 1 of block 2 of our paper titled BEGA-182, and this is page number 6. Okay, there you could see a section called greet. This section greetings, maybe you can read about it. So there is one section that you need to study from block 2 unit 1. So this is section 1.5 of your official study material, page number 12. So that's all regarding unit 1 of block 2. You just have to have an idea regarding small talk. Alright? Yes, I'm trying to help you out of my experience of being an academic counselor. Over the years, I haven't seen much questions apart from small talk with respect to this unit. That doesn't mean you need not study unit 1. It's totally up to you. It's your risk if you don't study. Nevertheless, I'm trying to help you with the most important aspects. So moving on to unit 2. Unit 2 of block 2 is titled Making Enquiries or Asking Questions. So firstly, I'll explain the important questions or important points, and after that I'll give you detailed explanation. So that will be how I'll be going about this sessions. Throughout this unit, it is mentioned how to ask questions politely. May that be over the telephone or face to face. They have elaborated on the basic courtesies, even dinner talk, enquiries at services, and other aspects are mentioned. You can study what an enquiry is, and maybe you can learn about the types of enquiries. And if there is a specific question on telephone enquiry, make sure that you mention how a call should be received and how a call should be made, and you need to be thorough with the bad manners on the telephone. This comes under page number 23 of unit 2. So I just asked you to study the basics of inquiries. That is, you need to have an overview of this unit, but let me remind you that so far I haven't seen much questions from this unit. Alright? Nevertheless, you never know, maybe they could ask you a question on telephone conversation or something, that sort. Moving on to unit 3 of block 2. This unit is titled Group Discussions and Meetings. GD, that is the abbreviation of group discussion. I'm very sure that you must have heard of group discussion, or else this would be an important aspect with respect to your job seeking adventures in your respective career. So I'll give you an overview of group discussion later, or you may refer to my study materials. Nevertheless, now we'll discuss the most important aspects to study from this unit. So this unit is one of the most important units in block 2 of this course code. I would say this is the most important unit in block 2 of this particular course, because you have this probability of receiving both practical and theoretical question from this particular unit. That is, there could be theory questions from this particular unit. At the same time, they could also ask you regarding group discussion as a question, like the way you did for your assignment. So while we were discussing the previous question paper, we discussed all such aspects in detail. I suppose you remember. So with respect to GD, you need to know what a GD is, and you need to know the essentials of a group discussion. I remember this being a question for the last year's TEE. So please make sure that you have an idea regarding what GD is. And this is not for your exam purpose, but I am mentioning even as part of this unit, you have some set phrases. That is, if you look at page number 35, you can see some suggestions of language. They wouldn't ask you this for your examination, but for your general understanding and for your future preparations with respect to improving your communication, you may make use of all these. Okay, then if you move on to page number 40, you could see section 3.2.4.1, which is titled as Overcome Differences in Communication Style. Okay, there you could see some aspects discussed and you may read about it. And the next important aspect is the differences in gender and culture. At times there could be a specific question regarding the differences in gender and culture with respect to a group discussion. See, if such a question is asked for your examination, make sure that you wouldn't limit your answer just to this section. Firstly, you need to give an introduction to group discussion. I believe I've discussed how to write an answer for BEGAE-182 in my last lecture. Okay, so remember that. And section 3.2.5, maintaining roles in a group. This is also important. So let me once again emphasize 3 main aspects to study from this particular unit. Part 1, group discussion. You need to know what a GD is. That is the basic difference, GD at interviews and GD in general, you need to know. Thereafter, you need to be aware of the essentials of a group discussion. Remember to study the differences in gender and culture, and finally, study about maintaining roles in a GD. So that would give you an overview of group discussion as such. Remember, this is important. You'll certainly receive a question. Okay? Yes. So this unit has another subsection 3.3, meetings. So you can also receive meetings related questions. There is this probability of you receiving questions related to meetings too. So with respect to meetings, you need to know what a meeting is and how it is different from a group discussion. And there you have agenda of a meeting, section 3.3.1. You need to study that. And the most important aspect to study for your TEE is section 3.4. You could say that section 3.4 is a bit too lengthy. It's okay, it's very easy. You just have to study a few points, that is around 10 points are there. That is, in a meeting you need to follow certain etiquettes, that is, you need to prepare well, you need to listen carefully, you shouldn't interrupt somebody speaking, you need to follow the agenda, that is the timetable kind of thing. Then you need to be very active in participation, and you need not monopolize the meeting. That is, it is not just you in the meeting, there are other people too, you need to acknowledge them. You should try to resolve conflicts, that is, if there is a problem you need to resolve the problem. You need to pay attention to non-verbal communication, this is very important. And may that be any kind of meeting, there is a decorum to be kept. Decorum means there is some basic decency to be kept, that is, you need to remain silent unless you are asked to speak. Such aspects would come under decorum. So this section is very important. Study what a meeting is, and thereafter pay attention to role of participants in a meeting. Moving on to unit 4. This unit is titled Presentation Skills, Essentials of Presentation Skills. This unit is very important in the sense you will get a question from this unit. Okay, but most probably you will be receiving a practical question. Okay, very rarely do they ask you a question, a theory question from this section. So that reminds me, with respect to the previous TEE, they had asked you a question on visual aids. Do you remember? So when I explained the question paper, I just focused my attention on block 1. But now when I think about it, you need to actually write points from this unit too. So page number 63, section 4.3, using visual aids. So make sure that you are aware, if there comes a question on visual aids, you need to write points from this section too. Alright, so that was actually a theory question which was quite unexpected from this particular unit. So there comes the importance of options. Choose your options wisely. I actually discussed all these. I'm not repeating any of these. So you need to be aware of the structure of a presentation. That is, may that be any kind of presentation, there should be a beginning, there should be a middle, and there should be an ending. Even if you are closely observing my lectures, I always give you a brief introduction, thereafter I move on to the content, and thereafter I conclude by summing up. This is how I do. Similarly, it's up to people, and basically the ideal structure of a presentation is of 3 levels. That is, the first stage is the beginning, where you introduce yourself, you state your purpose, you relate subjects to the audience, and you give a brief outline. And after that, you state the matter, actually the content to be presented. You make use of visuals if you need. And with respect to a PowerPoint presentation, it is advisable not to present more than 4 points or ideas in a screen. Okay, this is a tip that is provided in your study material. So signposting can be used. So using phrases and words to guide readers. Okay, this is what is meant by signposting. And finally, ending. So when you conclude, towards your last slides, you shouldn't present a new idea. That is, these ending slides are meant for conclusion. You can make recommendations if you have any, and you can relate conclusion to the audience. You may also ask questions to the audience. So section 4.2.1 is very important. Apart from that, make sure that you study 4.3 for your TE. And then, to be on the safe side, maybe you can study sections 4.5 and 4.6. Ending of a presentation and signposting is mentioned in details. I haven't seen questions so far, so the probability of there being a question is very low, nevertheless. Okay, If you are interested, you can study, and as we have seen in the previous question paper, there could be a question for 10 marks to actually make a presentation. Okay, you have already done that for your assignment, so I'm very sure that you'll be able to do that clearly. So that's all regarding block 2. So as part of block 2, we saw 4 units. Remember, the first 2 units are not so important with respect to your TE preparation. Nevertheless, do not fail to study the third unit. It is of great importance. You will receive 2 to 3 questions from unit 3 of block